New videos every day.
Hi, I'm Radia Gleese. I'm a certified clinical nutritionist.
And I'm Peter McCarthy. I'm a traditional naturopath.
And this is Wake Up America. Today we're going to talk about sugar in politics, and all about sugar. And first I want to just sort of recap this with describing to you how refined sugar is made. You know, we look at this, little bowl of white stuff on our table and we think, it's basically harmless. But as far as a food stuff, this is how they make table sugar. It's derived either from beet sugar or from cane. Most of it is from beet. It's less expensive, basically, to harvest beets. And most people aren't aware that actually the beet was originally grown not for the root, but grown for the leaves. And most people, they'll buy beets and tear off the leaves and throw them away, and then eat the red bulb. But really, actually, most of the minerals and the nutrients are in the greens themselves. So when they process beets, they basically cut off the greens right away.
All the good stuff. Sure.
Yeah, they cut that off, and all of the minerals and vitamins and major nutrients are thrown out. Then they take the beet and they slice it, and then they run it through a process of filtering it, grinding it down, running it through charcoal, through another filter. It's filtered it's reduced down to all of the actual what's left of the beet is then boiled down. And molasses, which comes from that, which is where, again, all of the rest of the nutrient is extracted out in the molasses process. Then it is bleached. Once it's reduced down and devitalized, it's bleached with a strong bleaching agent that makes it white. And once it's down to its absolute denatured, almost pure carbon atom, this is what you get on your table. Now, what's the problem with this?
How appetizing.
Yes, not only is it not appetizing, but it's devitalized, and it's reduced down to such a simple carbohydrate that it's almost like, Peter, I always say in my classes, it's like injecting it right into the blood, because there's so little that you have to do to digest it. And what's the
rocket fuel for the body?
Exactly. It's a high octane fuel for a Model T engine, which is basically what our body is. The problem with that is that we have such a tight regulatory system in our blood to keep our blood sugar regulated. Yep. And it's hormonally regulated. Most of you have heard of insulin, but most people aren't aware that when we break down that blood sugar, we only utilize as little as a teaspoon in the blood at all times. So basically that insulin is regulating and storing excess sugar. So if you eat anything, more than a teaspoon, obviously what's going to happen? Well, most of it, a lot of it is stored. But if we're not doing a lot of exercise or what have you, that then is converted into fat, and it's sort of stored here. And of course, in the long run, we do a lot of damage to the pancreas, and through time, not only obesity, but diabetes is prevalent. And this is kind of what happens.
Well, and I think I should add also, Radia, that since you and I have been doing that teleconference series on stress, that it makes a very large demand on the adrenals, because it requires the adrenals to secrete what they call glucocorticoid, otherwise known as cortisol. in order to be able to assist in the processing of all that glucose in the bloodstream. So every time you're taking a hit of processed sugar, we've all heard of the sugar high, guess what? The adrenals kick in as well.
And of course, our food industry not only doesn't tell us this, but most of the powers that be say there's nothing wrong with sugar. Sugar's good for you. Now, obviously, overconsumption of sugar, which is prevalent in our society today, we're now consuming, we used to back in the 70s consume an average of 60 pounds of sugar a year. We are now up to 150 pounds of sugar a year.
It just blows me away.
Most people aren't aware. Remember in the old days, the original Coca-Cola, which was, this tiny little bottle?
Yes,
right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, well, now it's 12 ounces, then it's 20 ounces, and now it's a big gulp, right? You go
44 ounces,
44
man.
ounces, and there's approximately 48 teaspoons of sugar in a big gulp.
One shot and you're good for the whole day, right?
That's right. And this is, of course, what our children are consuming on a regular basis. I have clients come in who literally drink 2 or 3 of these big gulps. All right. So, and actually the super size is 64 ounces, which is it's a half a gallon. So if you're drinking several of these a day, you're drinking up to a gallon. Now, not only does it affect the adrenals, and it affects, we're going to talk about the immune system. I know you're going to mention that. So not only the immune system and obviously our pancreatic system, but here's what happens in the cellular level. Once we metabolize this sugar, right, there's a byproduct of that metabolism, and it's carbonic acid. Okay, so carbonic acid is then released back into the bloodstream, and it is what it sounds like, acid. Now, there's lots of books out there on pH balance, but we know very, very simple that an acid pH equals death. There's no question about it, right?
You got it.
So how the body compensates for this maximum influx of acid is it has to neutralize the acid pH. So how it does that is it takes calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium as our alkalinizing minerals. Well, guess where you get calcium, magnesium? From the bone.
You
right?
think?
So this is why we're seeing actually children that are getting osteoporosis at this point, or cardiovascular disease, or diabetes, because they are consuming so much sugar that their body is in an acid state, and they're constantly having to compensate for this.
I know, just to reinforce what you're saying, Radia, I know a woman who has had 2 spinal surgeries to put and first insert and then reposition a cage around her spine because she has such severe osteoporosis. It's the only way that her structural integrity can be maintained intact. You go to her house, she has an entire cabinet full of soft drinks. She drinks them all day long.
Right. And of course, there is the addictive factor.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And some of you may have seen this on some of the major media organs. We want to share a little bit more about what it is that they're really talking about when they say sugar is addictive. There are 4 components to addiction, okay? There's first increased intake of a substance, whatever it might be, followed by symptoms of withdrawal. But then, and there have been many, many studies that have been done over the years on both humans and laboratory animals that have been able to demonstrate those 2 components very clearly. What's different about the Princeton study, and it was released by Princeton University, and God bless them because they did us all such a great service in bringing this all to light. They were able to conclusively prove that you also have the phenomena of cravings and relapse. And they were able to show tremendously profound behavioral changes in the laboratory rats that they were doing these experiments with, to the point where if the rat was denied this high sugar solution that it was being given, it fell into a depression. Well, think about what that means. Think about that for a moment. One of the things that processed sugar does, among others, is It alters the brain's chemistry, the neurochemistry, and it helps to create a set of conditions that depletes serotonin. Well, if you know anything about brain chemistry, you know serotonin is a critical component for stable mood, being able to maintain a positive mood, to be able to enjoy a good night's sleep. So think about that.
Weight regulation.
Weight regulation. Oh, the list goes on. And think about what you're doing to the body if you take not one, but several of those big gulps every day. Think about what you're doing to your neurochemistry. But as you mentioned also, we should also mention what happens to the immune system. And this is settled science. We've referred to this in one of our earlier videos, but it's worth repeating. Back in 1973, 35 years ago, a study was done where they gave human test subjects, large doses of glucose in forms such as processed sugar, orange juice. There were a number of different ways that the body took the glucose. Without exception, for all of those test subjects, after they had ingested that large dose of glucose, for up to 5 hours after they did so, their immune system was significantly downregulated. So think about that. How does that factor into what we're doing to our health by putting all of this sugar out there into the food and beverage supply?
Yeah, and not only that, just on an aside note, not only the addiction of the sugar, but add some caffeine into that, and you've got an interesting mix.
A witch's brew.
And of course, we see lots of children that I know of and teenagers that are absolutely addicted to these soft drinks.
Yes.
Right. So not only is there, big pharma, which we've heard, and big food, but actually there is what's called big sugar, right? Which is the big sugar cartels. And these sugar manufacturers have a pretty good stronghold on our government. And they regulate, not only do they manipulate how the government disseminates information on sugar and the risk of it, but they actually regulate the excise tax that comes in. We're actually paying, as Americans, 3 times more the cost of sugar in America than in most other countries, and that's because of these big sugar cartels that basically regulate and have a great deal of clout with our government system. As a matter of fact, there were 2 things. One, they had the USDA, remember the USDA pyramid, right? They had under nutritional facts, they kind of got them to change the phraseology from limiting sugar to now just moderating sugar. Now, they fortune in getting the USDA to actually do this, and you think, well, that's such a minor technicality, but actually, no, it's not. There's quite a difference between limiting something and moderating something. Moderating means you should still have it. You should still do it, but in moderation. And of course, the dietitians, that's their slogan, everything in moderation.
Everything.
So they went through painstaking measures to change the phraseology for educating the public. But another thing, remember in the very, very tippy top of the pyramid, there was a little icon of a soda can. Well, the Soft Drink Association actually sued the USDA for putting this little soft drink can at the top of the pyramid because it was indicating that they were the bad guys. So, this is how much clout and this is how much our court system, unfortunately, allows this thing to go through. And we really need to tell our government and tell the organizations that are set up to protect the public to watch these so-called watchdog organizations and organizations like the FDA and the USDA and stuff like that to do their job. So what do you suggest, Peter? What do you want to tell our friends here?
Well, we all have an unparalleled opportunity in our lifetimes with the way the new Obama administration is beginning its term of office, they've asked for input on healthcare issues. And this is a perfect issue for you to be able to contact change.gov, go to the healthcare page, and put your comments into the President-elect's office about one of the things that is most important for us to change in order to recover control of our own healthcare system in this country. And that is that President Obama and his appointees need to convene a panel of nonpartisan, impartial experts. In other words, experts that have no financial ties to big food, big pharma, or big sugar, and have that panel completely redraw the dietary guidelines for this country. They need to just throw all of the lawyers, the lobbyists, all of the paid consultants out of the room and sit down and to create a set of dietary guidelines for what's best for the human body, not what's best for some corporation's bottom line. Mm-hmm. And if they're serious about real change, that's something that they can do. So I'd ask all of you who see this video, first of all, take that initiative yourself. But second of all, make sure as many people in your circle of influence see this video as possible so that we get as many inputs on this issue to President Obama and his team as we possibly can.
And another thing that we were talking about today, our purpose in Wake Up America is not only to give you information, but we really want to give you empowerment. We don't want to just have a bitch fest about, this is doing this. Because what we have to come to realize is that the most powerful people in this country are the consumers. You need to go to Coca-Cola, to Nestle, to these companies and write them and say, we're tired of this. We're tired of your BS. We're tired of what you're doing to our nation, to our health, etc. Knock it off. We're not going to buy your product. And this is very, very, very serious because if we do not start taking the reins of our own health and decide and not wait around for the government to do it for us, this ship is going to sink.
Yes, it will.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it will.
So make sure that you subscribe. If you haven't subscribed to Psychetruth, we will be back. We're going to be talking about other things that are coming up. And pretty soon we are going to be interviewing Rick Jaffe. He is the writer of Galileo's Lawyer. That's going to be exciting. And I am also going to, for Psychetruth, I'm going to go through a 4-part series all about carbohydrates and how they work and, how to negotiate through label reading and figuring out what carbohydrates are good for you versus what carbohydrates are not good for you. So stay tuned and make sure that you make your comments. We love getting your comments. We do read them, and we'd love to hear from you. So stay tuned next time, and thanks for coming.
Thanks, folks. See you next time.
If you liked this video, we have hundreds of more alternative videos ranging from sexual health to psychology to mind control. So if you liked it, go ahead and click on me to enter the Psychetruth channel.